Hello my friends, it's good to see you again. And do you guys like movies? I know I do. A little bit ago I made a video talking about the Super Mario Bros. Movie and how great it was. Now my opinion hasn't changed in the slightest, I still think it's great, and when the film comes out on DVD I plan on doing a fully scripted review on it. But until then, I have this. I've been on a video game movie kick as of late, and I've been watching a bunch of video game movies from my childhood, as well as a few I hadn't seen before. I started to think about how bad some of these were, but also how good bad some of them were, or even how genuinely good some of them are. So here we are with my list, my top 5 favorite video game movies. This is of course fully opinion based. Some of these movies are really bad, but they're still movies that I really like. These are not the best movies, but to me, they are the most fun. So with that said, let's
get into it!
Number 5. Super Mario Bros. 1993. Okay, let's get the obvious one out of the way. I adore this stupid movie. Is it just childhood nostalgia? Yes! Any sense of enjoyment or appreciation of this movie stems from the fact that it was the Mario movie I grew up with. I'm only focusing on the stuff that I like because that's what makes it my favorite. First of all, the cast is stacked to the moon and back. Roger Rabbit's Bob Hoskins as the man, the myth, the Mario. Sid the Sloth himself and Violent Night badass John Leguizamo was Luigi, who brought some well-deserved personality to what was once just a green Mario. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2's Dennis Hopper. The 3 leads alone carry this movie with their goofy-ass performances. Especially Dennis Hopper, who is a total creep in this movie, and I love it. The supporting characters are also cast quite well. Samantha Mathis plays a good Daisy, and I am 100% certain that this was the start of the Luigi-Daisy ship. Fisher Stevens and Richard Edson do a fine job as the comic relief, playing a couple of bumbling Koopas named Iggy and Spike. The plot makes no sense at all and does not fit as a Super Mario plot. So basically, the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs split the world into 2, creating a world where dinosaurs evolved into human lizard people and where the apes evolved into normal people. King Koopa kidnaps Daisy because she wears a chip of the meteorite around her neck which he needs to put back into the meteor so he can merge the 2 worlds and invade the human world. Meanwhile, Mario and Luigi get roped into this and travel to the Mushroom Kingdom to save the princess and stop Koopa. It almost sounds like a Mario plot, with having to save the princess, but not quite. The Mushroom Kingdom looks really cool. It's a huge underground city that's very poorly put together with mushroom goop slathered across every wall and constant chaos and destruction. It's surreal and reminds me a lot of Jersey. The film's effects, outside of the CGI, are really good. The creature designs for the Koopas and Goombas, although inaccurate, are still very impressive, and the Yoshi animatronic is adorable. This film falls under the so bad it's goofy category. It's not at all faithful to the games, was a bitch to make, is really questionable at times, and yet stands overall as a fun and wacky adventure with talented actors, fun set pieces, and a solid score. Props to Alan Silvestri of Back to the Future fame. A childhood classic, but a really bad movie overall. One day, I'll review it in full. God bless. Number 4. Street Fighter 1994. The Mario movie tripped and fell so this movie could go for a slight stroll. Confusing metaphor aside, what we have here is technically the opposite of what the Mario movie is. Street Fighter is incredibly faithful to the game, so what should a fighting game movie have? Well, choreographed fight scenes, obviously, and this film has it in spades. Street Fighter's plot is simplistic, with it pretty much just being a story about the group of characters that we all know and love going out to stop the evil M. Bison, but it works because of how faithful it feels to the game. The cast is really solid as well, casting people who could embody the characters as well as resemble them, with the 2 poster boys being Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile, who for some reason is the main character, and the ever-so-charming Addams Family patriarch Raul Julia as the menacing M. Bison. The supporting cast of fighters is really solid as well. Byron Mann, who plays Ryu, has previous experience with fighting films, so he fits into the role very well. Damian Chapa did a fine job as Ken, and the legend Miguel A. Nunez of Friday the 13th Part 5 fame plays DJ in a minor role. As I mentioned before, the fight choreography is fantastic. It feels a lot like a Bruce Lee movie with how it's shot and how the sound effects are added to it. A lot of moves from the game are implemented to varying degrees of success, sometimes looking cool, sometimes looking meth, and sometimes not even looking like they happened. Capcom had a lot of control over how the movie was made and made sure that the film wouldn't turn out like the Mario movie, actually using the film as an example of how not to make the movie. I first saw this movie on a lonely, rainy Saturday night about 5 years ago, so any enjoyment of this movie doesn't stem from childhood nostalgia, but rather stemming from how impressed I was with how this film recreates and represents the Street Fighter games. If you're a Street Fighter fan and you somehow haven't seen this, give it a watch. You might not be disappointed. Number 3. Mortal Kombat 1995. Wow, look at that! Another fighting game movie. I guess Hollywood was really good at these. Okay, I'm sure a few people are upset that I didn't include the R-rated 2021 Mortal Kombat film. And don't get me wrong, that movie was fantastic. Truly faithful to the games and came out in an era where filmmakers actually knew how to make a film based on a video game. But I have some plot issues with the film, I don't much care how it never actually makes it to the real tournament, and I don't like that the film focuses on an original character rather than the pre-established ones from the games. A solid 8 out of 10 movie in my book. I'm sure the sequels will blow it out of the water, but my money is on the 90s film. Mortal Kombat 1995 was sadly rated PG-13 to appeal to a large number of kids that got hooked on playing the games. I'm not mad about that though, because I know parents and how much they would have complained if the film was rated R. Despite this handicap, the film still offers a lot of the stuff from the games that makes it one of my favorites. The film succeeds in the same ways the Street Fighter movie did. Well choreographed fight scenes with moves lifted from the games? Check. A story that's lifted or directly inspired by the plot of the games? Check. Actors that embody the characters as well resemble to the characters? Check-a-rooney. The cast of Mortal Kombat ranges from perfect to what the toasty for the director smoking. On one end of the spectrum, Lyndon Ashby plays Johnny Cage with perfect self-centered douchebaggery, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Christopher Lambert as Lord Raiden, the God of Thunder. This is such an asinine casting choice that every other film critic and their mother has ripped into, so I'll simply spare it with a baseball. Other than that, the cast is very solid. Robin Shou as Liu Kang is talented and very funny, mainly with his line delivery, and has a couple of the best fight moments. Bridget Wilson plays a badass female lead who quite literally pulls no punches. The fight scenes in the film all take place in cool backdrops that look like they were pulled right out of the game, with my personal favorite being Johnny Cage and Scorpion's rematch with the fire and the explosions and crap. It's great! The film's effects are also very good for the time, especially the Goro animatronic and all the effects used on Scorpion's grapples and his flaming skull. This film is one where I can pump my fists in excitement anytime that sweet techno theme song comes on, and I can really enjoy myself. The best way I can describe this movie is as a lazy Sunday movie. This film was really fun, and it's a shame that its sequel sucked ass. Number 2. Silent Hill 2006. Look at that! 2 videos where a Silent Hill project is at number 2. If I had a nickel, eh? Time to get a bit serious. Because this film isn't some cheesy, silly adaptation from the mid to late 90s that you can laugh at. Silent Hill is a legitimate adaptation of a horror franchise. This film does not pull punches with what it's trying to do, which is scaring you with realized visuals of familiar locations, characters, and enemies, all mostly from the original Silent Hill games. The story follows closest to the original game, which is fitting because it'd be dumb to start the story starting with the second game. Oh wait! I think what elevates this movie the most was the fact that it was helmed by a huge fan of the game series, Christoph Gans. He wasn't some Hollywood douchebag who didn't like video games and was gonna make this movie for a quick buck. He wanted to put in all of the extra effort to make sure the film was as faithful to the games as possible. This means that the movie is weird, but in the best way possible. The film's writer, Roger Avery, is also incredibly talented, being the co-writer of freaking Pulp Fiction. Avery is a master of dark storytelling and was also a fan of the games. So you have a competent and worthy team helming your film. Great start! The film's visuals are an absolute standout, being faithful to the games while still putting a creative twist in. For instance, in the original Silent Hill, the town was an abandoned resort town that was trapped in a constant fog and was always snowing no matter the season. Meanwhile, in the film, Silent Hill is an old mining town trapped in fog, and instead of snow, it constantly rains ash, which was inspired by the real-life town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. This leads to the same visual style as the game while still being unique and kinda clever. The visuals inside the buildings are also haunting, with these dark, rusted, claustrophobia-inducing rooms being bathed in a sickening red glow, creeping me the hell out. Like if you walked through these rooms, you'd slice your arm open on a wall spike or something. You of course have the inclusion of familiar Silent Hill enemies like the bubble-headed nurses, those weird armless twitchy enemies, and the icon himself, Pyramid Head. The film's score is also notable, with every track in the film being lifted directly from one of the games, with some getting altered arrangements. This is a musical tactic that, as far as I know, hadn't been done before and wouldn't be done again until the Super Mario Bros. Movie earlier this year. There's only one song in the film that isn't lifted from the games, and that's Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, and that song is a certified banger. God bless you, Jeff Dana, and long live Akira Yamaoka. The plot is pretty much the same as the original game, with a parent searching for their lost daughter in the town of Silent Hill, but instead of Henry Mason, you have Rose De Silva, played by Rhoda Mitchell, and instead of Sherry, you have Sharon, played by Jodelle Ferland. Another notable cast member is Laurie Holden, who plays Sybil Bennett and is a dead ringer for the character. The plots are mostly the same, but again take creative liberties that don't at all hurt the film. Okay, I'm done talking about Silent Hill.
I love this movie. It is a perfect adaptation of one of my favorite horror games of all time. I'll always come back to this movie, and it deserves to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. Before getting to my favorite video game movie adaptation, I'd like to list off a few honorable mentions and why they didn't make it onto this list. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, 2023. I really loved this movie, and realistically, it should be number 1 on this list, but I've only seen it once and would rather watch it a few more times from a critical angle before jumping to any conclusions. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2. Simple, I haven't seen either of these movies. Jim Carrey is funny as hell though. Detective Pikachu. I really liked this movie. I thought it was cute and was far better than the games. It's kind of a slow movie and the twist at the end was really stupid though. Mortal Kombat 2021. Just thought I'd mention it again as collateral. Resident Evil Apocalypse. Leagues better than the first film, featuring legacy characters, the nemesis, badass action set pieces, and a plot that actually feels like Resident Evil. It would have totally been at number 1 if it had not been up against... Number 1. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City 2021. Hardcore Resident Evil fans, please don't hate me. I know you guys really didn't like this movie, and trust me, I know exactly why. This movie had a decent heap of problems, but I can look past these issues because of how much this film makes me happy. I look at this movie and it just screams Resident Evil. This film gives me the same feeling I had when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake for the first time. I was scared but also laughing my ass off and falling in love with these witty, fun characters. I want to talk about the cast first, because I know it was something that even I was curious about when the first trailer came out, and I do have my gripes. Avon Jogia was perfect as Leon the Sex Kennedy. I do not care that he doesn't have the hair. He played the wisecracking rookie so well, rocks the RPD uniform, and even steps up a bit in the film taking initiative. A similar case is with Hannah Jo Kamen as Jill Valentine. She plays the character very well and has the snark that reminds me a lot of Jill from RE3 and RE1. Actors that were cast perfectly down to their appearances include Kaya Scodelario and Robbie Armel as Claire and Chris respectively, who have fantastic chemistry and resemble the characters to an uncanny degree. Even their child actor counterparts get the characters just right. Donnell Logue had me cracking up as the admittedly less evil Chief Brian Irons. Pat Thornton, who I swear to God was directly modeled after the truck driver from RE2 Remake. Seriously, God made him in that guy's image. Lily Gao is Ada Wong, who I really wish was in the movie more and I hope will be in a future sequel. And Ukrainian dancer and contortionist Marina Mousepass as Lisa Trevor, taking a page out of Silent Hill's casting book, I see. Unfortunately, the cast kinda goes downhill from here, mainly with Tom Hopper as Albert Wesker and Neil McDonough as William Birkin. Hopper looks the part, mostly, but Wesker is just not Wesker in this movie. He's just another goofy member of STARS who gets along with everyone else, instead of being the stoic, standoffish type who takes no shit. Yes, he does betray the team near the end, just like in RE1, but he doesn't create a super tyrant or anything like that. He just follows a bunch of instructions left for him by Ada and plans on ditching the team to escape Raccoon City before it blows up. He doesn't even put on the sunglasses until the post-credits scene. Neil McDonough does not play a good William Birkin. He doesn't look the part, and his motivations are kinda lame, with him just being a creep who uses kids from an orphanage as human experiments, which yes, I know he did do in the games. His G design isn't that bad if I'm being honest, and the CGI is aight. Annette Birkin is wasted in this movie. She does literally nothing, even though she's very involved with the RE2 plot, which this film borrows a lot from. That's enough complaining about what is supposed to be my favorite video game movie, though. The film score is haunting, with loud, droning horns and synth-heavy beeps and boops. The film's composer, Mark Corvin, is a master of the craft, having composed the score for The Vivitch, The Lighthouse, and the also very synth-heavy Black Phone. The film's set design, in my opinion, is some of the best I've ever seen. The first time I saw the RPD lobby in the theater, I was blown away at how stunning it was and how damn close it was to the games. Same stuff applies to the Spencer Mansion, the streets of Raccoon City, and even right down to the subway train the gang uses to escape the city before it's destroyed. The film's plot borrows from the first two games and ends the same way as RE3, which I have my issues with considering RE2 takes place last, and RE3 can't happen now because of how the film ends. I love this film for what it is, which is a, for the most part, faithful adaptation of the first two Resident Evil games with some well-implemented creative liberties that subverted my expectations, and some really solid special effects, whether practical or CGI. While I wish we'd get a sequel, with the release of Resident Evil Death Island, I wouldn't get my hopes up. Good thing that movie looks amazing. So there you have it, folks, my favorite video game movies.
I know I had some goofy choices, but hey, you know how it goes. It's all just my opinion. I think this video acts as a good transitional video before my graduation day video goes public. I apologize if this video felt rushed in any ways. I'm honestly trying to beat a deadline. I'm just trying to get this video out before the end of the school year. If you like this video, share it with your friends, or maybe even come back sometime. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.